This is The Attraction Factor with Pam Thomas on Empower Radio. 30 minutes to supercharge your life, move past negativity, and reclaim your personal power. Now, here's your host, Pam Thomas on Empower Radio.
Welcome to The Attraction Factor. Have you ever hated your body and the way you looked? You know, I remember times when I would get out of the shower and pick to pieces my body. I hated to be naked. I hated to see myself naked, much less be seen by someone else. Today's guest, Kimberly Riggins, is a body image and self-love expert, and in just a moment, she and I are going to be talking about loving our bodies and who we are just as we are. So do stick with us. But before I bring Kimberly on, I'd like to share with you the Attraction Factor tip of the week. And that is, listen to your heart. There's a quote, and I don't know where this came from, but I absolutely love it. Don't believe everything your mind tells you. I don't know about you, but I know that my mind can be notorious for feeding me crap. Crap about how I look, my future, who I am. And I've come to realize that that's really my ego talking. You know, ego is that place where judgment hangs out. It's your heart that knows the truth. And it's your heart that will never steer you wrong. So listen to it. And now I'd love to introduce you to Kimberly Riggins. As I mentioned, Kimberly is a body image and self-love expert. She's also the CEO of Kimberly Riggins International, the author of the inspirational book, Love Your Naked Ass, and I love that title, and the creator of the program, The Ravishing Renegade, where she helps women slash through the jungle to discover self-love. She's also currently working on her first philanthropy mission called the Watch Her Thrive Project, where she's going to be publishing a collaborative book and hold a wine and chocolate soiree in honor of Women for Women International. Kimberly, welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, you know, I'm curious. You and I had a little opportunity to sit and chat before the show, and I was dying to ask you, what inspired you to become a body image and self-love expert?
Well, like I said to you earlier, it's not something that I woke up one morning and was like, you know, I had this big aha, and I was like, yes, I'm going to be a body image and self-love expert today, and I'm going to go to school for that. And that it's not how it actually happened. It's just kind of morphed into this based off of my personal experiences through my life. And so I struggled a lot as a young teen and as a young adult with my own body image issues. When I was 16, I was date raped, and that turned into an eating disorder. And that turned into having crazy, crazy body image issues and, you know, body loathing, self-hatred, and all that good stuff. So it's really been through, you know, my own personal evolution that this all was created. Because at the end of the day, I went to the hospital for my eating disorder, and I was actually an inpatient at one point, and got the help that I needed, and came out and was eating, not starving myself anymore or working out 6 hours a day. But there was these lingering thoughts, these lingering emotions and ideas and stories that evolved around I'm fat. And let me tell you, like, literally I've never had a weight problem. I weigh exactly what I weigh now as I did probably in high school. So,
wow.
Aside from having an eating disorder, you know, of course, then I was really, really tiny and like withering away to nothing. But the point is I didn't have a weight problem. My body image issues and my eating disorder really stemmed from me waging a war against myself for allowing something as what had happened to me, being date raped. I internalized that and I blamed myself. Right. And there's a whole long story in that and of itself that I won't go into. But essentially, that's how it started. And I was seeking help therapy-wise. I had a couple of coaches. And what ended up happening is I just got so sick of hearing the same thing from everybody. They were all like, you know, you need to start eating and that will solve your problem. And you need to exercise and treat your body kindly. That will solve your problem. And the reality was it wasn't solving my problem. So one day I literally took off every stitch of clothing that I had on. I stood in front of a full-length mirror, and I found peace with my body. And it didn't happen like in 2 minutes or 2 seconds or 2 hours. Essentially, I did that over a period of, I believe it was like 60 days. I could go look in my journal, but literally every single day. And what I started to do was recognize what my body can do for me and appreciating the qualities of this amazing machine called your body is versus looking and dwelling and obsessing and loathing all of the things about myself that I thought were not perfect. And what ended up happening is I started seeing beauty and started liking who I was and started laughing at myself and started smiling back at my image and was like, wow, there's really something to this. I know it's really controversial. Like most people I tell this to, they're like, you did what? But I took matters into my own hands because the truth was that all the money I was throwing away in coaching and therapy weren't helping.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I just want to say kudos to you for taking what could have been must have been a devastating situation and using it not only to help yourself to love yourself, but helping others to love themselves, and wow. There are just so many messages out there. If, like you said, if you just eat, things will be okay. I mean, we find so much comfort in food. Or if you just start exercising, things will be okay. From the work that you do, and with the women that you've worked with, what do you find to be the main reasons that might prevent someone from really loving who they are?
I feel like there's a couple of answers to that question. I think number one, we are often told stories of how we should look, what we should be, how we should dress, what our body should look like, what size we should wear. And it does stem from the media. And I'm not going to step on the soapbox and blame the media for everything because I'm a very huge advocate of choice. And we have the power to believe what we want and to not believe what we want to believe. But yes, media does play a role in it, but I also think it comes from, watching your mother stand in front of the mirror, pinching her abdominals or pinching her thighs and saying, oh, I'm so fat. And you grow up seeing that over and over again, and then you start to think that you're fat. Or, you look at your best friend and she's tall and thin and you're, short and a little bit stockier and you're like, oh, wow, I don't have that body. Or, people like her more than they like me. Or, it's just things that you hear. You might grow up with a parent telling you, nobody's going to love you. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're not blah, blah, blah enough. And, as sad as that sounds, it happens every day. And those stories are carried with us. So essentially, that's what happens. So we carry these stories, which turns into all of these negative thoughts that roll around in our brain. And we tend to not be able to shift out of that space.
Yeah, those stories are definitely impactful. I mean, as you were saying that resonated with me because, I grew up with messages of not being pretty enough or not enough. And so I'm curious, and particularly like you, I don't want to completely blame the media, but we're surrounded by the airbrushed photos and we're surrounded by those weight loss messages. You can't turn on the TV today and not see an ad for a popular weight loss program and those old stories. So how do you move past all of the messages that are you're being bombarded with?
Well, you have a choice, like I said. It's not like you can avoid them. I mean, unless you get rid of your TV, never look at the internet again, don't buy any magazines, close your eyes when you're at the grocery store, check out online. You're not going to be able to avoid all those messages. But what you can do is choose to look through them and past them. The reality is that, and I've actually worked with a couple of models, and they are the most insecure women on the planet. They loathe their bodies because they don't even look good enough to be on the cover of a magazine because they are airbrushed, photoshopped, and whatnot. And so that has to say something. So when you're looking at a picture and like, oh, I'd love to look like her, and it could be whatever model you emulate, recognize that, one, she is probably really insecure because she's had to have 1,000 fixes to that photo to make her appear perfect.
Mm-hmm.
She's being told she's not perfect. And everyone in those magazines, that's not them. It's her job. You know, you have to take a different way of looking at what is out there. And again, you can choose to believe it or not believe it. I mean, you can see it. There's so much evidence out there that it's all doctored. So why would you buy into it? It's not helping you. And it's not serving you at all.
Absolutely. And we all know, you know, the logical part of us knows that those are being doctored and airbrushed. And of course, you know, we talk about how detrimental comparing ourselves to others is, but sometimes we do as particularly as women. And I know men battle with this as well, fall prey to that, those feelings of not enough and not good enough. So, you know, I love the fact that you say, we have a choice. You know, we have a choice as to how we view our bodies. We have a choice as to how we think. You know, we briefly talked about this before we went on air, and I loved what you said about diets sucking. I thought that was beautiful. Would you mind sharing a little bit more with our listeners as to why diets suck?
Well, I think, the reality is that diets suck hardcore. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Food is supposed to be, in my opinion, and of course this is my opinion, I'm sure someone would argue with this, but in my opinion, food is meant for quite a few things. One, it's obviously fuel for our body. It's to keep us alive, right? But it's not meant to not be enjoyable. Food is about connection with other people because we usually eat meals with others. You know, it's about nourishing ourselves. It's about enjoyment and joy. And I always associate food with love. So how can any diet that withholds certain food groups, that, you know, counts calories, that makes you eat diet stuff, which is disgusting, which makes you take on all these crazy rules and regulations. How in the world could that possibly be fun? And how can you sustain it over time?
Oh, absolutely. And you just said something about food being associated with love, and I'm curious as to your take on the role it plays in sabotaging self-love.
Well, it definitely can, because I think, like I said, I'm a true believer in, you know, eating what you want in moderation. So food, again, number one, it has to be considered fuel. So anyone who's going to use fuel as a way to numb your body, as a way to make yourself feel better, stuffing, whatever you want to call that, is going to be giving you the direct opposite of what food is actually should be used for. I mean, there's a fine line. I mean, you can cross it at any point. If you're doing that, you're harming yourself. So it's almost like you're on a diet, but it's just the reverse. It's like the opposite of dieting. You know, you're still doing that damage to yourself. Food cannot give you love. It creates love for you. I mean, you can eat healthfully, and you can nourish your body, and you can indulge in the things you love, and find pure, absolute, like, unadulterated decadence of whatever you're eating, right? And that can be good for self-love. But you can also take it to an extreme where you stuff and eat, 7 Snickers and 2 Boston cream pies and a whole box of donuts. And that particular formula is not self-love in any way, shape, or form. And I think that as human beings, who I always believe are highly intellectual at all levels, understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking about all that food just gave me a stomach ache. So, I'd love to know, what do you say to the woman who says, Kimberly, I've tried it all. I've tried to think better thoughts about myself. I've tried to nourish myself in a loving way, and I'm having a real difficult time looking at myself in the mirror and going, wow, I love you as you are. What do you say to that woman?
Well, honestly, I say let's work together. If I'm really honest.
Right.
Yeah, it's like essentially what happens is over time, and if they've really truly tried everything, and I'm usually talking to women who say that but actually haven't tried much. And so the women who have really tried everything, usually they have tried quick fixes, you know, and they layer on these layers and layers of Band-Aids. And so what I say is, okay, if you want to really truly get to the core of who you are and find your center and figure out what drives you every day to get out of bed and what brings you love, joy, and happiness, because it's different for everyone, then we're going to rip off the Band-Aids. And so for a lot of women, that scares them. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not for everyone, that's for sure. I mean, I don't sugarcoat things at all. And I don't pretend that it's easy, because it's not. But you really do have to look at a couple of things. It's not about your physical appearance anymore. We have to take that out of the equation for the time being and get to know who you are at your very core or your center. Like, what drives you? What wakes you up in the morning? What inspires you? Because only then can you truly find what love and joy looks like for you.
So really focusing on what sits at your heart and doing the things that you most love in order to ignite that self-love is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. And then everything softens. So your hatred towards your body is going to soften, because if you're finding joy and happiness and love within yourself, most likely, I've never met a woman who hasn't started taking better care of herself, eating healthier, working out, moving the body, whatever that looks like for you. I'm not saying it has to be a regimented routine, but just moving. You know, giving yourself pleasure in a multitude of ways, whether it's take yourself out on a date or, you know, pampering yourself in some way, having a really amazing self-care routine in place and following it as if it was a non-negotiable appointment with a doctor.
Yeah.
Because you are worth that much and more. It's so funny to me how women will, you know, make these doctor's appointments for, you know, whatever, skin dermatology appointments, regular appointments, and, you know, all these appointments, they get picked and prodded at, and they're never fun, and they never miss them. But when I suggest to a client or a woman I'm working with, you need to make a non-negotiable appointment with yourself to enjoy life, they always find a million excuses of why they can't do it.
Why do you think that is?
Because I don't think women, and I can't speak for men, but women undervalue who they are and what they offer the world. I think that somewhere along the line, we were taught that being powerful, and I say being powerful in ourselves, like being heard, seen, and standing up for what we believe in, having passion, you know, saying what we think makes us a bitch.
Yeah.
And so women don't want to have that stigma attached to them. And if we do that, then we're selfish. And so no one wants to be selfish. But here's the truth. In my opinion, not taking care of yourself and not standing up and being heard and living with passion and finding happiness within, you are being selfish. There's no selfless act in not loving who you are. That's being selfish in and of itself, because if you don't love yourself, you are pretty much useless to the rest of the world.
You bet. You bet. You know, and I agree, because you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah,
so,
and there's women every day that do just what you just said. They're drained, and they are falling apart at the seams, and they are crying inside, dying inside, essentially. And and they're wondering, what am I doing wrong? And it's, you're not making time for yourself. You are not taking care of yourself. If you did that first, you would be more essential and more beneficial to the people you work for, to your family, to your kids, to your husband, lover, whoever.
Absolutely. My listeners have probably heard me say this a gazillion times, even if it's just 10 minutes a day.
Yeah,
just to take 10 minutes a day, just to have some you time. I
always suggest 10 minutes a day. And I also suggest a me date once a month.
Oh, would you mind saying a little bit more about that? That sounds fantastic.
Well, here, you know, one of the things I recognized in myself and with the women that I've worked with is that we try to be everything for everyone, and we try to be involved in something at all times. We're multitaskers by nature, and it's very hard for women to be still or to be in the same space with themselves for too long periods of time. we don't know how to be our own best friend. So a me date is where you have to spend time with yourself and get to know you and essentially be the best date you've ever had without actually having someone in it. So you take yourself out, whether you go out to a restaurant that you've been dying to go out to, that you've been asking your husband to take you to, and he's always saying, yeah, we'll go. No, you go. You go, grab a glass of wine, order an appetizer, take a good juicy book, whatever you want to do. Sit there, relax, and enjoy the fact that you can breathe for the first time probably in days without a kid grabbing at your leg or somebody asking you for something at work or the dishes being in the sink and feeling like, I should really pretty much clean those things. Or the laundry on the floor or whatever the case may be.
I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea. I think it's really important. And what a great way to kind of get to know yourself a little more so that you can do, as you just said, get to know what's at your heart so that the self-love process can begin. Speaking of that, if you had one piece of advice to render to our listeners today that they could use to begin that self-love process, what would that be?
Well, this is going to sound funny, but literally I would say do something completely silly. Like one of the things that I have done with every woman I've worked with is whenever or even myself, when I feel like I'm in a dark space and I feel like life just sucks and I'm never going to figure this whole love thing out with myself and anybody else for that matter. One of the things that I've done is I literally just turn on some music and dance around the room. And funny enough, one of my superpowers, literally, I just was told this by quite a few clients in the last couple of months, is that my superpower is to empower women to literally get down to their cheekies, which are underwear or thongs or whatever kind of underwear you wear, and turn on music and dance around your underwear. There's something very freeing about that. You don't have to have mirrors involved. You don't have to have anyone in the house with you. You don't want to feel insecure or feel like someone might walk in, but just turn on some music and just let yourself go. It doesn't matter if you're a bad dancer. Just do something. Jump on your bed. I know you're told never to jump on your bed, but there's something really freeing and fun to jump up and down on your bed. I know why kids do it because I do it. It's fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So basically what you're saying is, for those of you who remember the movie Risky Business with Tom Cruise, have a risky business moment.
Exactly. It's like let go of being an adult for the time being, literally, and pull out your inner child. It's really about just doing something frivolous and fun and just off the wall and crazy. And because what will happen is you'll start smiling even if you try not to, because you can't do something like that without smiling. You can't.
Absolutely.
You try it. It's impossible. And you might start laughing uncontrollably, or you might just release a little bit of stress, and we all know that might be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know we're running out of time. Would love to share with the listeners, how can people get in contact with you and find out more about what you have to offer?
They can go to my website. It's Kimberly Riggins, RIGGINS.com. Or you can Google me, and you can find me there too. That's the best place to find out more about me. My website is actually going to go through a makeover in the next week or two, so I'm excited about that. But it will still be there.
Awesome.
And that's where you can find mostly everything that I do.
Fantastic. Well, and for those of you who are listening, on the Empower Radio Attraction Factor page, there will be a link to Kimberly's website, so feel free to visit there as well. Kimberly, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, as always. It is a pleasure to spend this time with you, and I want to encourage you to tune in again next week and join us. And I also want to share props and a thank you to our producer today, Remy, for being here with us, as well as Brent Carey, the visionary behind Empower Radio. As always, please be well, everyone, and please continue to amp up your attraction factor. Until next week.